This episode is brought to you by Lumina Growth Lab. At Lumina, we help professional learning and development companies who are struggling with predictable lead flow, breaking out beyond their network, and a sniper approach to attracting the ideal clients so they can have a smoother sales process, finally have scalability, and ultimately take their business to the next level. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because business has fundamentally changed since the pandemic and now the disruption of AI. But with the right strategy and support, they're able to confidently add new channels of lead generation, leading to a packed pipeline that creates sustainable revenue and year-over-year growth for cheaper than ever before because of the use of AI technologies. If that sounds like you or someone you know, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about unlocking your business's potential. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix. I'm your host, Lisanne, and I am so excited today to be joined by the incredible and talented Andy Boian. Andy, thank you so much for coming onto the show today.
Thank you for having me, Lisanne. Appreciate it very much.
Guys, I am really excited about this conversation. I had the opportunity to talk to Andy recently, and the work that he does and the passion that he has for who he helps and his unique niche is really so fun. I am so excited to have this conversation today. But before I hand
Likewise.
over the microphone, I want to take a moment to introduce this powerhouse man. So Andy has an education master's degree in public affairs with an emphasis in foreign policy and a pre-emphasis in Middle East politics. He's currently pursuing credentials in moral and ethical leadership from Harvard. His work experience is he spent 19 months in the White House from January 93 to the autumn of 94 and was granted 7 minutes each day with the President of the United States of America. During his 7 years in corporate comms, he helped to stand up 2 independent telecom companies and successfully negotiated with Douglas County to construct a walking crossover bridge over I-25 in exchange for a 6-level parking structure for the employees, which he successfully handled the 2016 Hillary Clinton server scandal. His company, Dovetail Solutions, is nearly 21 years old. He's currently working on a 7th presidential campaign. He's elected as Denver's youngest member of the Democratic National Committee. He is the 40 Under 40 award winner, and in 2020 and 2003 and 2006, given Metro State Favorite Professor of the Year. Successfully taught an online class at Columbia University, co-taught a class with Ambassador to Serbia at DU, and numerous appointments to state and national boards. So first of all, I feel like, Andy, you are like multiple humans that are just like mashed into one. You're like a Frankenhuman. You've done it all. I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Lisanne, and great job at the intro. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I would love for those that are not as familiar, like if you were to meet someone and they had like no idea what you did, like what is your like from floor 1 to floor 10, you're going up to the top, like elevator pitch in terms of like what you do and how you work with public servants.
Sure. Well, our firm is serviced to largely professional service, financial, law firms, accounting, architecture, those kinds of things, firms to do just corporate public relations, corporate communications. We do specialize in crisis and issues management, and we do work specifically with individuals as well on brand and marketing. So it really spans a wide berth of firms that you'll recognize. We represent Audi of North America, for example, the car manufacturer, and we'll go all the way down to husband and wife private equity firm that are looking to launch a family office. And then everything in between. We have some high profile, high net worth individuals as clients that will rely on us for corporate reputation, business reputation, sports reputation. But then also on our issue side in crisis management, we do a lot of work that's very urgent, requiring a sort of necessary answer right away. And we're sort of strategists in that regard. And then finally, our political and public affairs arm of our firm runs political campaigns and also deals in public affairs and legislative policy.
So you work in the public sector and in the private sector then with your clients. That's
do.
amazing. So I want to talk about this crisis management part for just a minute
Sure.
because it sounds like the kind of the juicy part. So what are some of the crises that have come across your desk that you guys help with in terms of those
Sure.
public relations?
There's a lot, and some of them are confidential, but some I can talk about. One of them is the 2016 presidential campaign between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, where there was a sort of a scandal, a dust up about her keeping a private server in the basement of her house in Chappaqua, New York. And there were some state secrets that were on that server. That's commonplace. And what was happening in the 2016 election was becoming more of an election issue. But I had Secretaries Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice reach out and say, I have the same thing when I was Secretary of State. So, there's no there. But what ended up happening as a result politically was that it cost her the election of the presidency in the last 2 weeks when the FBI reopened the case and then cast some doubt on whether that was legal or not.
Wow. That's a very high profile case
Yeah.
indeed. Are they eager to work with someone that's willing to help them, or is it because tends to be a more emotionally tense situation that like it can be difficult to work with them because like emotions are high, feelings are high.
Yep. Great question. That's a great question. And I would answer both. I would say I like the environment. I like the environment of solving problems. I sort of if people watch the show Scandal, I'm sort of the Olivia Pope person in the Scandal, or if people are familiar with the show Ray Donovan, I'm kind of the Ray Donovan guy. I'm the fixer. Although I don't throw bodies in trunks of cars, but there's a lot to be said for I've got a problem, I've got something that I need to fix, and I don't know how to fix it, and I got to go to a person who knows how to fix it. And from my Washington, D.C. days to our national work as a firm, we've really become associated and known as sort of the fixer. So we do, that's really what I do. I do a lot of that work.
That's so fun. So, let's go back a little bit to your origin of working in the White House. I would love to, if you could share a little bit of that story in terms of like a little bit more about what you were able to do and why you
Sure.
had that time with the president each day and how that inspired you to create the firm that you're running today.
Sure. Great question. So I got the political bug when I was in high school. I was working on campaigns and volunteering, and had the chance to work on a mayoral campaign in Denver in 1991 between two African American men. It was the only race in the country for mayor where we had two African American men run against each other. And those of you from Denver, I was born and raised here. Those of you from Denver in 1981, we had Norm Early against Wellington Webb. And obviously, Wellington Webb won for a whole host of reasons. But I got the political bug, and I really was inspired by it. Then I taught a class at Columbia with George Stephanopoulos. Actually, we got to like each other and start to think that we wanted to work on a presidential campaign together. We went to New York actually in 1991, thinking that then Governor Mario Cuomo was going to announce his candidacy for president. And we thought he's the guy we want to be with. He's the guy we want to help. And let's go. October 91, Mario Cuomo announces he's got cancer and he's not going to run for president. And we thought, oh gosh, who's there? And if you remember in 1991, 91, early 92, there was Paul Tsongas was really the lead front runner for a while in that race. And we got a call from a guy named Jimmy Carville. A lot of people know James Carville as sort of the raging Cajun from the South. And he said, hey, I want you two to come down to Arkansas and I want you to play golf with the governor over the weekend and get to know the governor of Arkansas. And his name is Bill Clinton, and he's not well known outside the South, but we believe he'll be the next president. So we flew down there and spent the weekend with Bill Clinton. And I have to tell you, Lisanne, it was an amazing experience because I learned more about Bill Clinton in 48 hours on the golf course and fishing and sitting on the porch and understanding more about why he wanted to be president. And then we announced our candidacy in late 91, and George and I joined the campaign. And throughout 1992, I worked in communications with the candidate, then Governor Clinton, and George and James were back at Campaign HQ working on messaging and those kind of things, but I traveled with him. So I spent 92 traveling with him. And then the end of 92, we won, as you know. And on election night, it was interesting. On election night, George and Jimmy were both offered jobs in the White House, and I wasn't. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, I've done what I can do. I'm not, I was 19 years old. I'm not quite seasoned. I'm not a White House person. And then a couple weeks later, I was in Washington, actually just wrapping up my stay, and I got a call from Mac McClarty, who was the president's chief of staff, president-elect chief of staff, and was putting together the staff. And he said, what are you doing for the next couple of years? And I said, well, I don't know yet, sir. What do you have in mind? He said, well, why don't you join the White House? And so we came and joined, and I was a late arrival, but loved it. I was a deputy communications director. I spent 7 minutes a day with the president from 10:07 to 10:14. And you can bet at 10:14, Secret Service was in the room ready to pick me up and take me out of the Oval because it was time for the president to move on. But, that 7 minutes every day, Lisanne, was important to me. I was the only Colorado person from anywhere near Colorado that was on the president's cabinet staff. I was considered senior staff. So I was a writer, speechwriter by trade. He would often ask me about the Colorado Buffalo football team. He loved college football. And so we talked about the CU Buffs and the CSU Rams and more about Colorado and our climate here and the Denver Nuggets and then as we got into work, it really started to get very clear to me very very soon. The White House said this was a very serious person. He was very intent on doing a lot of things, which he accomplished. And for the next 19 months, when I joined, I worked in some of the most stressful, tenuous, difficult, fun, anxiety-provoking positions that I've ever been in my life. And I was 19 and 20 years old, and I'm very young, and I developed hives on my face, on my cheeks, and around my face. So I grew a beard. Those hives were from stress. I wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't getting enough good care of myself. But I was working hard, and I loved it, and I would never give it back. It was something that I achieved, and I also am proud of what we did and proud of what we accomplished. But I left right at the end of Black Hawk Down when that happened. When we had Marines attacked in Africa, as you know that story. But it was a very serious consequence, and I related to the president. I was the one who told the president what was happening, and we went up and called the parents of those dead Marines, and that was enough for me. I found that my tenure at the White House was coming to an end because I needed to get back to private life and also get back to something that was a lot less stressful than what I was dealing with.
Wow, that is a remarkable story. And what a unique opportunity. I mean, there are so few people that have that kind of opportunity, especially at a young age, right? To
Right.
be able to spend not even just a few moments with the president, but daily. Like that
Yep.
that really is remarkable. So so tell me like how did that experience lead you to create the firm that you're doing today? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot
So
of people kind of like leave the hill and they just leave it, like
yeah.
especially like when they're that young.
Yeah, there's a lot of intrigue about working in Congress, working in the White House that people sometimes think about that, the West Wing series, that show really portrayed the first term of the Clinton White House. We had Aaron Sorkin, who was the producer of the West Wing show, would be in some non-classified meetings with us, just kind of watching the dynamics and how people talked and what was happening, and then he built the show around it. And what was interesting about it, Lisanne, what I felt really strongly about was there was a synergy between government and what we were trying to do for the American people and what business and nonprofits were trying to do as well. And it oftentimes crossed over into the similar sort of results. We wanted similar results for the American people. For example, our first year in office, we tried to pass national health care with the then First Lady Hillary Clinton, and we were unsuccessful. But one of the things we tried with private business was to do basically what President Obama achieved, which was to bring Congress together and solve for those 45 million Americans that didn't have health insurance. And so when I left the White House, to answer your question, when I left the White House, I really wanted to start sort of like a P3 company where we talked a lot about how to work in government, how to work with private sector, and how to work with nonprofits and NGOs to solve some of the most intractable problems you can think of, whether it be homelessness or poverty, or how the government can help in situations of jobless and unemployment rates. And I really learned from the government side how it worked at my level. I mean, keep in mind, I'm a speechwriter at the White House, but I also understood and watched process happen. And then I came back and started this business because I felt like we could do it all together. And I started a company, named the company Dovetail Solutions for that reason. We really dovetail well together. Government, private sector, and public sector dovetail very well together because there are problems that we're all trying to solve together. And through our work as as a communications firm, we can get those three entities at the table and talking together. So our
Mm.
clients hire us to get work done, but also to achieve great results. And that's what we've done for 21 years.
Yeah, that's really remarkable. I have my youngest brother works for a Utah congressman currently, works on the Hill. He's the legislative director for Burgess Owens. And so Burgess has recently decided to not go up for reelection. And so
Right.
my brother's been on the Hill for almost 10 years now, which is very long compared to like the normal tenure
It
of
is a long time.
young
You're right.
staffers that have
Yep.
been there. So he's kind of in a place. It's really interesting hearing your story. I bring him up because he's kind of in a place where he's trying to decide, staying in a public service entity versus private sector. And if like his skill set lends really well to be a liaison to private organizations because of his depth of government experience. So it's really interesting hearing you talk about like how you are bringing those entities together and having that experience because it's kind of a rare set of gifts to understand both sides or be able to bring bring at one understanding to a different sector.
Yeah, it is. And it also, I feel really lucky because I feel like I've had the experience in government for long enough. And I've been in and out of government procurement, contracts and such since the White House, where I know the government's trying to really work hard for its constituents, whether it be a city, whether it be a portion of Utah, like your brother helps serve right now, or whether it's the entire country. There are things that we're trying to solve together. And what business does is they stand on the sidelines and wait to be asked. They wait to be asked, well, how can you help? Well, of course they can help financially and that way, but can they help with their intellect? Can they help with their experience? And they can. And oftentimes it doesn't relate just to money. It doesn't relate to, well, if you fund this, this will happen. It's more about if you can come to a solution together, then you solved a whole bunch of problems in one fell swoop. And a lot of people are affected by it. Like I go back to the Affordable Care Act. Might not be perfect, but it got expensive. I understand, and under this administration, they've reformed some of it. But what it did was it provided insurance for 40 million Americans at one time, and it was a really strong program that worked for both private and the public sector.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. So do you if you can share, what percentage of your business is private entities at this point versus just public servants?
Sure. So we're about 80-20 private right now. We do a lot of private work, and when I say private, I mean everything that's non-governmental. So we do a lot of work in the corporate world and a lot of work with individuals, and then some work that we do that's in the nonprofit sector that's not government related. And then the government related work we do on a contract basis, whether it be with a state or a county, or even the Fed. We do some work with the Fed as well. And there's a lot of intricacies there that can be solved well with just collaboration and work that we love to do. And
Yeah,
I know I keep saying that, but it's so almost foreign to people to think about getting those entities in the room together to talk about this. And
yeah,
we fight on Capitol Hill about something, and business needs it, and the American people suffer as a result of not getting it. That's a problem, and that's what we
yeah.
try to solve.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, and are you still like, I mean, you've been running this business for quite some time. Like, are you still like boots on the ground, like you're getting in there and writing still? Or have you kind of become more of a management oversight? Like what is your role currently in
Yep. So
Dovetail Solutions?
it says founder and CEO on my card, but really, I'm not a big hierarchy guy. I'm a guy who sits at the table and wants to work with a team on issues, and I review documents all the time. I'm reviewing strategic plans. I handle all of our crisis work. So, for example, about 2 hours ago, we were called on another crisis with a company here in Denver. So there's a lot of work here, and I have to be honest with you that I think if I was at a management level or I was just sitting behind a desk signing checks or whatever, I'd be bored. So I'm very active in the business and very active politically as well as doing some work with Gavin Newsom in California right now.
Nice. That's awesome. I think it creates a when you stay in it creates a level of like investment and like understanding that you can't get once you step out, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So I'm not like just knowing this very small bit that I do about you, I'm not surprised at all by your answer in terms of you still being involved. And are the projects that you work on, like, is everything hyper custom and like super unique? Do you have like a lot of things where it's kind of rinse and repeat processes for the work that you do? Like
Yeah.
what's the nature of the work?
Great question. So there'll be companies that will come to us and say, "Hey, can you develop a social media plan for us and get us out into the internet? We don't have a website or we don't have any kind of handles on on social media. Can you get us moving?" And we have a whole set of documents that we produce for companies that are sort of rinse and repeat a little bit, that talk about how to just start getting onto LinkedIn and what does it mean to have a website and how do you monitor and maintain it. And that's a lot of our corporate work, is a lot of that. And I do a lot of training as well. I do a lot of training of C-level executives on what we call relationship development. So let's say you meet with a person you're targeting and you have the first coffee. So what do you do after the first coffee? Like, what happens after that? How do you build a relationship? So we do a lot of that relationship building training, and we do a lot of media training as well. I'm heavily involved in that. And then, on everything else seems to be more customized, really, because the situation is so different all the time. And, we had a several weeks ago, if those of your listeners who remember, there was a great big fire on Leetsdale Avenue, and it burned down an entire apartment structure that was being built. And it was Denver's first 5-alarm fire in the last 40 years we've had. It was
Wow.
almost a 6-alarm fire, very significant fire. And we handled that crisis. But, you know, we've handled a lot of fires before, but a level 5 alarm is totally different. That means when you say 5-alarm, that's 5 different fire districts coming together to put the fire out. And that is expensive. It takes a long time, and it took over 24 hours for the fire to burn out. So those kinds of things are very custom, as opposed to we handle, you know, police shootings, and when they're both, whether there was a cop shot or a shooting of a suspect, there those kinds of things. We arrive at the scene oftentimes, and it's very chaotic, and there needs to be some level of organization put in place very quickly, because the other side of it, Lisanne, is that you have news crews whose jobs that it is to tell the story of what happened. So they're not, you know, oftentimes in my business, people see media as the bad guy. They're not. They're just trying to do a job. They're not trying to cause any trouble. They want to know what's what. And so, and
Mhm.
it's their job to find that out. And so we're very careful about how that works. We inform the media. We hold press conferences. We are sure to tell the media what's happening all the time, but it's a moving target all the time. So a lot of it is custom. A lot of it has to go back to my experience in the White House and my experience on the first presidential campaign with Bill Clinton, but also how does that work intrinsically in terms of what are people's motives for wanting to know, and what do they want to know? Are there
Mhm.
things that they'll say? Can we preempt the media? The media may say, "Do you suspect this as arson?" For example, that's a common question we get asked, and we can talk right away about whether or not we have arson investigators here and why or why not. The answer for, you know, our policy at our firm is we never let a reporter go without answering his or her questions in total. Whether we have to say, "I don't know, I'll get back to you," which is an okay answer sometimes, or whether we have a direct answer. But we never just ignore the media. That's just not something that we do. And to that end, it becomes very custom very quickly.
Yeah. No, I can imagine so. I would love if you feel comfortable sharing an example where like a case or a situation or however you call your work, like where you felt like it was very, very successful. And then on the other hand, something where like it was a very painful learning experience that informed future cases where like maybe a detail was missed or something was mistaken or a fact was given incorrectly. And like, I would just love for you to share a little bit about like something you're really proud of and then something where it was just a tough learning lesson
Yeah.
in your line of work.
Sure. Well, let me start with the tough one first, because I think it's a lesson learned, and it was something that happened right after I started the firm. We were called on a fire in an apartment building, and it was full of senior citizens, and 2 died, unfortunately, as a result of the fire. And one of the things that was important to talk about was how quickly we could get the senior citizens out of the building while the fire was happening. And I left some key details out of that that ended up costing a little bit of time and energy and effort to explain further. When those 2 unfortunately lost their lives, we didn't get them out fast enough. And there were reasons why we didn't get them out fast enough, but we tried, and we were unsuccessful in getting them out. I missed that in the story. And so I didn't miss the fact that they died, but what I missed was in the story was why they died. And that was a considerable part of the story that I missed. And I'm someone who's going to admit mistakes every time I make them. I make plenty of them every day, and probably enough for everybody. But at the end of the day, you learn from them. And it was something right after I started, right after I got to Denver and started the company. And it was a very sad situation, first of all, unfortunate, but it also taught me a lesson, because ironically, there were 2 apartment buildings on site. About a year later, the second apartment building burned as well to the ground, and we got
Oh my
everybody
God.
out. And it happened to just be a very strange predicament about where it was built and how it was built, and it caused a second fire. And so, but we handled it very well the second time. Let me tell you about a success story that I'm really proud of. We represent a very significant home builder here in Denver, and we've represented them for about 15 years now. And when we first represented them, we got called a lot on crisis because people were moving into homes that weren't finished. So literally, there were holes in the roof that rain would come right through and right down onto the living room floor. And they would allow customers to move in without doing a quality assurance or quality control check. So over the last 15 years, we've helped build a quality assurance program for this home builder so that they
Hmm.
don't release homes until they're completely done. There was a bad rush to get the home done and get people in and get the money and move on and keep building. But what we weren't doing was securing the protection and assurance that we built the right home and a good home for the right people. So I remember asking once a high profile news anchor who bought one of our homes, "Would you be willing to do a testimony for us?" And she said to me, "Believe me, you do not want me to do one for you. We had a terrible experience, and you do not want us to do one." And so that taught me a lesson about messaging and about, what's right. And I wasn't trying to, I'm not a home builder. I don't even know how to pound a nail into a board. But what I can tell you is the people that do know how to do it just needed a little bit more time, a little bit less pressure on them to get the home done and do it right. And now, 15 years later, we're building high quality homes. People are excited about it. We're winning awards for them, and we're doing the right thing. And I've lived that evolution with this company for 15 years, and I'm really proud of the fact that they've come from where they were to where they are today, winning national awards for home building and really truly successful, being the home builder they want to be, doing it the right way.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I love that, like, it sounds like you guys have evolved together. I mean, holding them
Yeah,
as a client for so long.
yeah, that's well said. We did. We certainly did. That's right. We did.
So, but when you have and when clients like when you like you the language you use is like like you said, hold them on retainer. Is that the language that you used? Like,
So,
I guess my question really is like do people like how does payment work for your clients? Is like is it per project? Is it retainer? Like how does it typically work?
yeah. So on the corporate side, when we do corporate PR, we're doing standard stuff. Like I mentioned earlier about building a social media program or building a communications plan for them. That's usually done on retainer. And we'll do something where we'll just be put on a retainer. We have certain hours a month to complete. And we work kind of like a law firm in that regard, where we just have a certain number of hours per month and we work those hours. And then we either say, hey, we're out of hours for the month, so we got to slow down. Or sometimes we go over hours because we know we'll make them up in the next month. So I'm not a big nickel and dime guy. I'm more about producing a very good product for the price that I quoted. And then on everything else is a project-based body of work that either involves just direct hours, like this will take me 20 hours to do, or in the part of a crisis, we ask for a down payment right away on a crisis. And we say it's X dollars to start this work. We'll start it. And then as we burn through that, we'll ask you for more. And I can promise you it'll be more because it's a big story. And we go through that process and audit all of our hours. We produce auditing hours for our clients so they can see what we spend our time on. That was another thing, by the way, that frustrated me about hiring PR firms before I started my own, because I didn't know what they were doing. I write a check
Mm,
every month and I think, I guess they're working on my brand, or I guess they're trying to get me in the Wall Street Journal, but I haven't seen anything yet. And
yeah,
so one of the things when I started my own firm is I said, we're very transparent. We do auditing of hours every month for clients. They see where we spent money and time and where we didn't, where we went over budget, where we might not have spent all their budget. We do that as well. And we say, hey, we've got a little bit of budget left. Let's keep going, or let's build it in the next month. But it makes the client feel better and it makes us feel better. The average tenure for a client in a PR firm is about 36 months. Our average is 7 years. So that's our average. So we've had clients that have started with me on day 3 of when I started the firm, and they're still with us.
wow,
And it's a feather in our cap to have them with us. We're very proud of that. At the same
yeah,
time,
you
though,
should
Sam,
be.
we also have clients that just want to get through the crisis. They want it solved. They want it put away. Largely, they want it either silenced and put away, or they want to tell their story and then go away. But either way, we work with those clients on an hourly basis and build in project fees for them.
Interesting. That's cool. So what are some industry trends that are impacting your firm right now? I mean, you've been around a while, so you've been through a lot. Like what are some current trends that you're looking at saying, okay, how are we going to work through this or weather this?
Yeah, interesting you asked that. I think the advent of AI has changed and transformed the very idea of how writing works in communications. So I'll give you an example. I can't give you his name, but he's a very, very high profile financial executive on Wall Street. And I've been writing for him for about 10 years. And about a month ago, he called me and he said, hey, I've got a speech for my shareholders and I'm going to use AI on this speech. And I think I'm not going to pay you to do this speech. I'm going to just try it on AI. And I said, go at it, try it. Let me know what you think. And I knew the result was coming. And the result is AI is maturing. It's coming and it's not stopping, and it's getting better and better every day. But when it produced a speech for this gentleman, he showed me the speech and it was full of 3 things. One, just factually was in error. It just had facts wrong. 2, it exaggerated a bit about what his company does and why they do it. So it almost sort of went on to assume things that weren't in fact, which is never okay. And the third thing it did was he asked to do it and write it in 1,200 words or less. And it wrote it in about 1,200 words, a little less than that, but it didn't tell the whole story on something. So it truncated places
Mm,
where it shouldn't be, and then it elaborated on places where it shouldn't be. So he produced a speech for me and he said, okay, I get it. Will you please could you write this speech for me? And AI has not matured yet enough to do that. But it is a tool that's being used in our industry. It's not really taking jobs away. People were very worried that AI was going to take jobs from communicators and from PR firms. It's not really doing that. What it is, though, is a tool for us to use. And it's one of the things we have in our toolkit now to use to write, to make sure that we are expressing brand. And just use Audi as an example. Audi of North America is a very well-known brand. They don't really use AI, and they really don't believe in it. And so we do a lot of their work by writing and talking with them and then building what they want. But there are other companies, we have high-tech companies that we serve in California, for example, that want AI used all the time. And it saves time, it saves money, and all we do is then clean it up. And so that's fine too. It just is, it's not our preference. Our preference is the more organic side of things, and we
Hmm.
use AI as it should be used, which is a part of a tool. That's one recent trend. The other trend I would say is that people are paying less attention to detail, less attention to grammar, less attention to spelling. And that, I have a couple of staff members that are former reporters, and they look at that and they see that's not AP style, or that's not, the comma shouldn't be there, or the semicolon shouldn't be there. And it's a way for us to perfect, if we can, what's being written, and also what's being seen on websites and on social media. There's a lot of that we do, a lot of editing we do as well to make sure that it's perfect. And that's a great, exciting part of our job we love. And we call ourselves writing nerds here, but we do a lot of branding as well, a lot of fun branding. The
Yeah.
the Frontier Airlines animal campaign, for example, was something we were a part of years and years ago, and we put animals on the tails of Frontier aircraft. And it was a really fun campaign that we worked hard at, and it
Yeah.
was very successful.
I love that. I love that. So, and what are some of your focuses for this year? Like, what's a big push or focus for
Yep.
you, and what's on the mind?
So our political shop is busy with midterm elections. We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot with the midterms. We represent candidates, but we're also watching policy. We're watching different pieces of legislation that are coming up for voter approval, and we're running some of those efforts as well. So midterms are big for us, really big for us. We are Denver is one of the cities being considered for the 2028 Democratic National Convention. So we're working on that as well and trying to keep Denver competitive to host the convention in 28. And on the corporate side, we're watching right now. Actually, we happen to be watching earnings for first quarter. A lot of those are coming out, and looking at how the economy's performing. I do a weekly TV show on Fox, and we talk a lot about the economy and about how Colorado's faring, and how the national economy is faring. So we do a lot of that work as well. And then finally, on those individual folks we work with, depending on who it is, we have a couple of A-list actors we're working with that are preparing to release movies, and then we have some political candidates that are getting ready and looking at a presidential run for 2028. There's a lot of action. Our office is really busy, and lot of stuff buzzing. We're here and in California. We're busy in both places.
I love that. That it's so much exciting stuff going on. I'm grateful that you're having success and that you're
Thank you.
finding the very many opportunities to take advantage of just what's going on in the world today. Well, Andy, it has been seriously so fun having you and
Thank you.
having your ability to communicate, articulate what you do, and the fun stories that you've had in your experience really means so much that you could bring all of that to the marketing matrix today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lisanne. And it's been a pleasure. And I want to just commend you on the questions you asked. I thought they were great. They hit on some of the biggest topics in our industry. So thanks very much for your effort.
Well, thank you. So for people that want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, follow you, how do people find you?
Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Andy Boian, and that's Boian. And then obviously dovetailsolutions.com is our website. And then my handle is at APB5280. That's my handle on Instagram and on Facebook. And I would love to welcome folks and get to know you as well. So I welcome all those ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to put those handles and those websites in the episode notes, guys, so you can link out to those directly. And so thank you so much for sharing those. And I hope that you take the opportunity to learn more about what Andy does and the great work that he does for people. And if it fits, if you're in a crisis, Andy's the guy. And not even just a crisis, but the great work that you do to help brands have great recognition or have unique campaigns. It sounds like you're doing some really fun stuff.
Great. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much. It has been seriously such a joy. With any one of those topics, I was like, oh man, we could have a couple hour conversation on any one of
Yeah,
these things. So it was really
I
fun
think so.
having you.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it. And thanks for giving me the time, Lisanne. Really appreciate it.
Of course. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in wherever you're listening from, your car, kitchen, or Costco. We know that your time is valuable, so for you to spend a few moments with us means the absolute world. Until next time on the Marketing Matrix.